How's it going, guys? This is the Irish Yank, and with the confirmation that Hawkeye and Spider-Man now going to be playable characters in the game, I wanted to give some suggestions on various characters I want to appear in the game, some various skins I want in the game. Now, I'm not going to go fully in depth. I want to try and keep this video a little bit short, but I'll give some reasons why I think they should be in the game. With the main story including the Inhumans, I'd like to see some of the Inhumans from the comics be playable characters. More specifically, I'd like to see Black Bolt as a playable character, because he has a very interesting power, which is a sonic scream, and I'd like to see how they would translate that into his combat. Would he have a very weak melee combat, but a very strong ranged combat with sonic screams? Or would they combine his scream into his melee combat with various kicks and punches, and then throwing in some sonic screams in between those attacks? It'd be very interesting to see what his combat would be. As well, with the game including DLC story for these characters, what would his motivations be? What would his story be? Is he the king of the Inhumans in this universe, or is he like a different version of Black Bolt, where he's just gotten his powers and he's learning to control them? Now, more than likely, a lot of players are going to be playing Iron Man. Now, I want to play as Iron Man, but if I don't get a chance to play as him, like if I'm at a party and someone else has picked Iron Man as a character, I wouldn't mind being able to play as a different armor user, and I would love to see War Machine in the game, because War Machine is like one of my favorite Marvel characters. He's basically like Iron Man, but he's got so many different weapons, and with his different weapons, you have different forms of ranged combat. You could do various different forms of close quarter combat, because you could combine his machine guns on his arms into punches. You can do various ranges with his minigun and rockets. And also with the game including DLC story, like I said with Black Bolt, it'd be interesting to see who is this Rhodey in this universe. Is he friends with Tony? Is he a military dude that Tony gave a suit to so he can fight? What's his motivations? Obviously he's a military dude and he's going to be told to fight them, but does he have like a reason for fighting? Was something taken away from him? It'd be interesting to see what is his plot in the game. As well, he's basically like a backup if someone else picks Iron Man. Now, another character we'd like to see is Wolverine. He's been a member of the X-Men, but he's also been a member of the Avengers, and he's one of my more favorite characters in Marvel Comics, and you'd always want your favorite character in a video game. Now, his combat would be pretty easy, because he's got claws, so his combat would be mainly slashes, stabs, maybe punching, maybe kicks. His range could probably be him lunging at an enemy, and his ultimate could be him turning into Berserker Rage, which gives you like a boost of energy and like probably double damage, so you can kill people easier. But with the DLC story also, it'll be interesting to see what they do with this Logan. Is he a member of the X-Men, or has he not joined them yet? What's his motivations for fighting in this? And like, what kind of Wolverine is he? Is he like the one we know, or is he different? It'd just be interesting to see what they do, but mainly it'd be cool to be able to play as Wolverine next to Iron Man and Captain America, because the last time I got to do that was in Ultimate Alliance 2, and I'd love to be able to do it again in this new video game. Now, I like some of the more street-level superheroes, the ones that fight for various parts of New York, like not for the entire world. Now, I'm going to mention two, but number one is going to be Daredevil. Daredevil is one of my favorite superheroes. He's not my super favorite, but he's one of my favorite street level heroes. His main power is like he's got like super sense. He can like sense things, and that could probably be like a power he has. Like he can like switch to like a detective mode, like from Batman Arkham, and he can like see through walls, like target enemies. And with him in the comics being a very skilled fighter, he's like a boxer, and he's also knows various forms of martial arts. His combat could be interesting, doing various forms of flip kicks, punches, maybe doing backflips while kicking a guy. As well, he's got his baton, or his stick thing. You could switch to, like, you could possibly have him switching from various forms of bow staffs to two sticks, like maybe a giant baton. And with it also being a grappling hook in the comics, you could give him swinging like Spider-Man. And with the DLC story, it'd be interesting to see what kind of Daredevil is this. Is he the same in the comics, or is he different? What's his motivation for fighting in this game? And yes, Daredevil is probably not the strongest superheroes, but he's one of the more skilled, and I'd like to see him in a game, because I haven't seen Daredevil in a video game in a very long time. Now, another character I'd like to see as kind of a more street level hero is the Punisher. Yes, he's a very violent hero, so they might have to make him less violent for this game. But I'd be interested to see what his combat's like for melee, because his ranged is going to probably include various forms of guns, maybe pistols, maybe an assault rifle. But his combat would be interesting because he's an army man, so he's probably going to mainly know army combat. And with him being a very brutal character in the comics and in the Netflix show, he might have very brutal attacks, like various punches, kicks, maybe like a finisher that's like brutal, like him and getting a guy in a headlock and bashing his head in. Be interesting to see like what would they do with his combat, because he's a very brutal character, and I like to see how they would do his attacks in this game. And like with the DLC story, it'd be interesting like what kind of Punisher this is. Is he the exact same from the comics, or did they switch some things up in his origins? Like, I wish I could say what would his motivations be in the game, but his motivations and everything is because he fights bad guys. So if he's in the game, he's gonna fight these guys because they're bad. But I'm more interested in seeing him in a game because, like Daredevil, he hasn't been in a game in a while, and I really want to see him in a game, and I want to see what they do with him in a game. Now, another character I would like to see, I'm not sure if he's been a member of the Avengers in the comics, but I know he's fought alongside the Avengers, and he may actually not be in the game, but I'd like to see him in the game. I'd like to have Ghost Rider. Yes, you probably couldn't include his bike, because the areas are probably not going to be good for bikes, but it'd be just interesting to see what you would do with Ghost Rider, because his combat could consist of him using his chain like a whip, or wrapping it around his arm and using it like a knuckle duster. His range could be him firing various forms of fireballs or a stream of fire, and maybe his ult is him releasing the spirit of vengeance and gaining, like, I don't know, triple damage. And once again, I'd be interested to see this DLC story. Is this the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider? Is this Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider? Is this a different character who's now become Ghost Rider? What would they do with him? And once again, his motivations would be kind of the same like the Punisher. The Ghost Rider would fight bad guys, and he'd fight them. He'd make them, he'd punch them. But I'd just like to see him in the game because he's a very interesting character in terms of fighting, and I'd like to see how they do his combat. And like the other two I just mentioned, he hasn't been in the game in a while, and it'd be nice to see him in the game. Now, moving away from playable characters, some cosmetic skins I would like to see would include various ones for like Iron Man, maybe ones or two for Cap, maybe Thor, probably Spider-Man, Hawkeye, maybe a few more. But for Iron Man, I'd like to see his all-new, all-different Marvel Iron Man suit for some of the newer comics, because I really like the look of the suit. Yes, it's very kind of simple looking, but it just, I don't know, it's something to me, it looks really cool. And another one I'd like to see is the Destroyer Iron Man suit from Fear itself, because that suit just looks brutal as hell with all the spikes and it just looking like the Destroyer, and I think it looked cool in the game. Maybe they can like stylize it to look more modern and more badass. And with like all the glowing lines in it, I think it just looks really badass. Now, another suit I'd like to see is for Cap. I can only really think of one I want to see because one of the suits I wanted has been announced, but one I would like to see is his like Secret Empire Cap armor, like the kind of Hydra Iron Man suit. I think they're really cool. Yes, it looks like Iron Man, but wouldn't it be cool to have Cap and Iron Man both in a suit? And you can't deny, that suit looked really cool in the comic. Yes, like, probably might not do the shield, but even then, just having the suit, and maybe like have two variations, one looking like the Hydra one looking like the Captain America colors. I think it would just be cool in the game. Now, another two suits I would like to see are for Thor. Now, one would be weird, but another I think could work, which is Unworthy Thor from the comics. Yeah, they can't give him his axe, but really liked Unworthy Thor, like with his whole Uru metal arm, and having to see that in the game, they might make it look more modernized, maybe not make it look like the Destroyer, but like a really cool like iron gauntlet, and having like the short hair Thor, like the torn cape and like the kind of just broken down clothing, it'd be kind of cool looking. But another cosmetic skin I'd like to see is Beta Ray Bill. Now, originally I wanted Beta Ray Bill as a separate character, but the more I thought about it, Beta Ray Bill and Thor have the exact same powers, so all you really need to do is just give Thor a different outfit, different cosmetic skin, maybe bring in a different voice actor to do different lines for Beta Ray Bill, switch the hammer to Stormbreaker, and there you go. And that's just it. You wouldn't need to make a separate character.